Originally, we opened up in 1919 with my great-grandfather, Robert Napper, and it was called Napper's Boxing and Wrestling Club. It closed down, I believe, before the First World War, or during it, and then it opened up again in the 50s, and that was by Robert Napper Jr., where my grandfather also coached there. It was called Boys Town Boxing Club. And then it closed down, I'm not sure when, probably in the 60s. And then my grandfather opened up Napper's Boxing Club in 1977. He was involved in the Welland Boxing Club, which was a very good boxing club, but he didn't necessarily agree with some of the ways it was ran and how they treated the fighters, even though they had very successful fighters. It was an old school mentality. You know, you had to be tough. You walked in the gym the first day, you had to spar the best guy in the gym, and if you came back the next day, they would work with you. Well, a little inhumane in some people's books. So my grandfather opened up this place, had a great atmosphere. You know, my grandfather was a kind, genuine man, and you know, he brought that to Napper's Boxing Club and brought that attitude and that culture and morals, you know, to the place we're standing in today. And you know, he's just set the tone for the past 40 years, which, through my grandfather, my dad, myself as the head coaches, and all the rest of the family helping out and doing everything for this boxing club. We're still that same genuine, kind-hearted, club with lots of morals, and it's a good place to be. Get a lot of members who absolutely love it. It's like a big family here, and that's the history in a nutshell.
Well, I started boxing when I was 11 years old in St. Catharines, and there was a few clubs in the area, Niagara Falls, Nappers, St. Catharines, and we used to come up here sparring from time to time, and we used to fight against Nappers boxers back in the day and travel around. But what really drew my attention to Nappers, knowing them, was when Ray Napper Senior was named to the Ontario team for the Canada Winter Games as a coach. And that was my first introduction to really getting to know what Nappers was really about and what their people were, and the kind of man that Ray Napper Senior was.
1977, I met Ray at the Welland Boxing Club. He was one of the coaches there with Frank DeGacio, Ray Napper, Cheech. So that's where I met Ray. I took a break there from the Welland Boxing Club, and I know Ray started his own gym, and I decided to come over here. And I liked the way that Ray ran his club here. He was good at delegating. He could watch his fighters, and he could pick out what they needed, and he found somebody to, if he didn't know how to show them what he wanted to show them, he would find somebody that could. And he would bring that talent out in the fighter.
I remember coming in and there would be Tom Glesby or any of the other good fighters, or maybe people off of Team Ontario or Team Canada in the gym. And I would come and hit the bag right beside them and mock what they were doing, and it was a lot of fun. And went from there to being down here a little bit more with my dad, running here every day. And then 1995, unfortunately my grandfather passed away. My dad became the head coach. He spoke to me about the club possibly not being here forever. It wasn't necessarily his goal in life to run a boxing club and be a successful coach. So he said, I'm going to keep the club open if you want to, join and, do your thing, learn boxing, and, take up the family tradition. And from that moment on, I was in.
Well, the first thing I remember after joining Nappers was the guys in the club. They were very accepting to me coming to Nappers. They welcomed me, made me feel comfortable in a time that I needed that type of environment to be surrounded by. Also, with my job at the time, I was working at the paper mill in Thorold, and I couldn't get down to the club on regular hours. And that's when Ray Napper said, "Jamie, here's a key to the club. Feel free to use it whenever you want." So him putting that kind of trust in me to be able to come here and work out by myself and open up the club and just have free will to the gym meant a lot to me. And we started building our little bit of a bond at that moment in time.
Yeah, I can remember Tom Gillespie coming into the gym, just a little guy. And at the start, Tommy didn't win too many fights. And Ray Senior, Ray came over to me and he says, "Show Tommy how to hit hard." So I took him down in the basement and I worked with him. And it's funny, Ray knew that that was something that he had to learn, and that would change him as a fighter. And his next fight, he ended up stopping the guy. And from then on, that's now we got Tom the Bomb, right?
Having Ray work my corner just before the Olympics is one story. You know, I can tell that I fought the world champion 6 weeks before the Olympic Games in North Carolina. And I'm in the corner after the second round. After knocking down the champ in the second round, I come back to the corner and I was all frantic and hyper, and then Ray put his hand on my shoulders and quietly spoke to me and says, "Jamie, calm down, relax, everything's okay. Just remember that this guy's gonna come out like a whirlwind in the next round. So use your footwork, use your mobility for the first minute of the round. Let him blow off some steam because he's a little embarrassed what happened in the second round. So just be calm, be patient." And I remember those things, and it was a big sense of comfort, like somebody put a blanket around me and said, "Everything's gonna be okay, Jamie." And I was able to go out there in that third round and do exactly what he told me to do.
Microphone he did not like. He got himself a little lesson in boxing. He's fighting 110 just to win this fight, but an even fight. Pengadam with a... Pengadam pushing off. The American coaches yelling for us to sheer multitude of punches. He just strings up Josie Banks. Like say, whoa, what is that? And we are coming to the end of the bout. Josie Banks was put down by Jamie Pengadam back in the second round, but Banks came back strong, also landed after the bell. And Pengadam is celebrating, but we will find out. We'll get that the official decision in just a moment.
The great thing about Ray was that he'd let you grow and become the fighter that you should be. So he would sit back and he'd allow you to, he wouldn't be on you constantly, and he would allow you to flourish into the fighter that you should be. And where you thought you needed help, he would work on those weaknesses and bring that the strengths out of you. So I learned that as you sit back as a coach and you watch your fighters and you let them grow, and if there's something they need to work on, you make sure either you can show them or you find somebody that can. But like the game, you never end up knowing everything. You always learn, and the day you learn you think you know it all is the day you better hang up the gloves, because you never know it all.
I joined in the fall, and it was just when when school would go back in. And there's a lot of kids. It was really enthusiastic. There was also, what I did notice straight up was that there was a lot of coaching staff, a lot of former fighters that were coming back to the club and working with a lot of these young kids. And people start to ask me if I needed help from the first day that I was here. So it was really, it seemed like a really good environment. Probably one of the reasons why I kept coming back.
The amount of attention that they gave us our first few weeks there was was fantastic, and the whole atmosphere was very friendly and welcoming and familiar. It was nice. You really felt like you were valued as a person and not just another competitor for the gym.
The feel is unbelievable. Like, you walk in and it's like, first time I walked in, I'm like, where I am? Like, it's like stepping back in time. You got all these old posters on the wall from these old fights, and you see names that you recognize of people that you knew, but you didn't know that they fought. And that was what, like, visually struck me. But then, you know, as an athlete, as someone who was like hungry and wanted to do this, you know, I just walked in and was like, I'm gonna work as hard as I can. And, you know, there were coaches that were nice to me. You know, first night is a boring night, you know, but, you know, you pulled me aside and you paired me with, I forget who it was, some fighter. It might have been David Calix or something like that. And they showed me how to throw my punches, but I was just struck by how much it felt like stepping back in time coming into this place. And it's unbelievable.
Yeah, first of all, I wasn't too thrilled about it because, you know, you don't hear many good things about boxing. But he pressed, and like I said, Jimmy Watson was coaching with me. So anyway, we brought him down. Actually, I brought him down with Jimmy the one day, and he really enjoyed it. But I was impressed with you coaches, to put it bluntly, like Greg, Jimmy, Mark, yourself, Dougie, you know, especially. I knew you guys like from the periphery, from outside, because we're community guys. You guys are all community guys. I was a community guy, and from the first time I stepped foot in this place, I felt welcome. And I mean, for me, you took care of my son. I loved it when you said, you're not getting in the ring till you can show me that you can defend, and that you can take a punch, and that you can give a punch, and we'll spar you when you're ready, but not before. So I enjoyed that part of it, and he took to the training, and he did quite well for himself when he did it. And so, like, for me, Nappers is always right here. It's in my heart. It's been here a long time, but the people in here are just superb.
Well, I was trying to find a gym that I liked, that I connected with the coaches, and I was having a lot of trouble. So I did find one, but he was about an hour and a half away from my house. It just like couldn't happen. And then, so anyways, he referred me to Nappers, and he said, you know, Ray will take good care of you. He's a great coach. It's a great club. And I just remember coming here for the first time, and I was just like, this is it. This is where I want to be.
A lot of these kids that come through these doors, I mean, they come from all kinds of different backgrounds, but to some of them, this is it. Like, this is their opportunity to do something constructive in a life that may not be so positive. And the family is so supportive of that, and providing entry fees and uniforms and travel expenses and equipment and everything to these kids. It's a not-for-profit organization. So, I mean, I think it's a huge part of Welland and surrounding areas, just because of what it's done for a lot of people's lives. I mean, it's just played such a big part and made things so much more positive.
The gym hasn't changed much. Still looks pretty much the same. Still got all the posters on the wall. You know, it's got a welcoming atmosphere. I know Victoria, my daughter, feels very comfortable coming here, knowing that she's being made feel that she matters and that she's important. But there's also rules to follow. So it's building a foundation for her as she's growing up in life. So this is very important to me as a father. I don't spend a lot of time training with Victoria because I want her to be able to trust in other people as well. And I don't want to cast that shadow over her development. I want her to learn from the coaches that come in here. Well, there's so many guys here that are willing to help. And I think that's very, very important, and it's a good environment for Victoria to be in.
It's family. It's family. It's ingrained in the community. It's and I don't just mean like, you know, just here, like just Welland. It's like the Niagara region. It's Ontario. Like everyone knows about the boxing club. But as Canadian as hockey is, Nappers is Welland. And everyone knows that. Every single person knows that. And every person that comes to the store, it's the same thing. It's that family atmosphere, and it's a home away from home. So since I was 12 years old, I'm 27. That's a long time, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's a long time to be here. So it's like, you know, you, your family, your parents, your brother, and every other person I've met here, it's family, right? So yeah, it's nice.
I had so much fun here. I spent, you know, 6 days a week, 2 hours a day training, plus the half hour before and half hour after practice. You're just sitting talking with people and hearing, you know, Jimmy's old stories or Mark Rome's old stories or the stories from your Canadian Championship, and watching the old fight on the tube TV upstairs. And you know, the fun was just being with your, like, it was a family. As soon as you joined the team, as soon as I started coming to the Tuesday night and the Saturday night competitive practices, I felt like I was part of a family, you know, and it meant a lot. These were the people I spent the most time with during high school, honestly. And it will always be that, right? Like, this place is home, you know, a second home to me because I spent so much time here. So to boil it down to one memory is impossible.
You're here because you build culture. And that's the phrase that they use today. And so many teams, so many organizations are trying to build that. It's a lot, but it starts with the people, it starts with the base, and that's, you know, you and your dad started that. So, your grandfather. So, you know, I know that's why Nappers is still around. That's why it's so important to the community. It's so important to the city. Landmarks like this, in my opinion, should never be erased.
Yeah, it plays a huge role in the community because, like, maybe someone might be leading towards the wrong path or into negative things, but once you come down to the club and you start training, you see that you need to work hard. You need to apply that to all aspects of your life. It's training hard, it's eating well, it's doing good outside and inside school as well, because the coaches are making sure that you're performing in school and coming here and trying hard. It's had a huge impact on me. Like, it changes the way you think, because you become a part of something that you're never going to lose. Like, I could be gone from here for a year, but when I walk in, it's still the same familiar faces. It's that, like, love and feeling of a community together that it's just important to you and it changes your life.
I personally look back to the days when I first started, and when a select few would meet on the weekends on a Sunday, and you'd come, or Ray would come, our head coach would come, and he'd get in the ring with us and play around and show us some of his tricks when he would fight, and we'd get a little bit extra attention, and then we'd all go out for breakfast after. So that was certainly a really good team building thing that we did in the earlier days. And then, of course, there's when I was the main event in Welland. I was the first female to headline a card in Welland, and that was such a flattering moment when I was asked, and such a privilege to represent this club, and to have that as a responsibility. It was good. It was very touching. It was great.
Oh, my fondest memory by far, and yeah, it's a bit of a emotional one right now, is my Nana. She made me the happiest. Like, her support down here, she was 70 years old. She would come in the gym like the odd time, and you know, it was always just so nice to see her and have her presence in the gym. Even when I was a coach, I would joke with the other boxers about, you know, keeping their hands up, or she was going to hit them with her cane. And, you know, she always got a good laugh over that. But, you know, she was 60, 70 years old, and she'd be in the crowd screaming at the top of her lungs, sometimes shadow boxing and throwing punches in the air. And she always had her famous lines, you know, bring one up, straight punches, stick and move, get 'em, Ray. You know, it was by far my fondest memory, my Nana.
Her being at the boxing matches and the last few fights that I've seen her at was exactly the same as in the 80s and the 70s, in the 80s and the 90s. Wow. Same way.
What would she do?
You would hear her voice. She'd be cheering you on, you know, giving you pointers in the ring what to do. You could hear her out in the crowd. She was definitely a huge fan of boxing.
We're watching Jimmy Hope in the black trunks. He's from Welland, and Joe Lowe from Sarnia in the white and green trunks, and of course the green shirt. You mentioned a very interesting point earlier in the telecast. With only 3 rounds at stake, they really don't have an awful lot of time to feel one another out.
Gotta go right to work.
And that's what Hope did, as you mentioned, right off the bat. He tried to...
I could always hear 2 people's voices while I was fighting, your dad's and your Nana's. And obviously your Nana would always, you know, bring one up, Scar.
She's like the heart and soul down here of everyone at Napper's Club. She'd take her time, she would come down, she knew everybody's name. Even I remember after a couple of fights coming out all sweaty, like probably some blood in there somewhere, but sure enough she'd be there, meet you at the bottom of the ring and give you a hug. Just things like that, and just her smile to be around boxing, to be so passionate about it.
I mean, outside of boxing, like for myself, like certain things come to mind, like with Derek, for example, right? Here was a kid that came in here and he couldn't even, like, he was attached to his grandfather's leg. He couldn't even say hello to you. He was so shy and so stuck, you know? And this kid runs drills, does hand pads. I mean, he coaches athletes now.
You know, after a couple weeks, he would be skipping and just looking over at me every 2 seconds, looking for my, you know, that I was acknowledging him and accepting him. And now the kid, he'll walk in and he thinks it's funny that he walks by me and completely ignores me. He thinks it's a big joke. But the kid runs my classes now, and, you know, that's accomplishments-wise, Derek Cook is my greatest accomplishment down here, so it's nice.
When I started, I had to get better and practice till I fight it, and got really good after that. Everybody gets along in this club. We have a great time. We have parties for me in here, and we spar and do other stuff in here. A lot of new people come in here, have to introduce yourself and have to get used to coming in to work with them. The workout's really good, and it's tough, but you have to get used to it, suck it up, and work hard. Probably my life. Probably I'd be sad without Nappers.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Would you say that
Nappers has become a big part of your life?
It's been kind of part of my life, get used to new people and all that.
So it's a big part of your life now?
Yeah.
Over the last 8 years, I've been given the opportunity to not only fight, but to coach my own athletes and have helped coach Ray's athletes. I've been given the opportunity to run an all-women's class here twice a week, and that experience in itself gave me the confidence and leadership abilities to transfer into a career. And now I'm personal training, I'm instructing classes on a daily basis, and my classes are going well. People love them. Our gym memberships are on the rise. A lot of women now come here. We have almost more women, I think, that come to the club than there ever has been before, and some nights there's more girls here than guys. So I think it's been a huge impact in that it's really helped open up a career for me, and it's allowed me to be a role model for a lot of females.
I mean, when we first started here, there was essentially one other woman here, and now there's tons. Like a new girl walks into the gym almost every week.
Fitness is becoming a trend, and if you think about, especially females where the sport's growing every day, what does boxing work on? Boxing works on toning up your arms. Boxing works on tightening up your abs. Works on your lower body as well. Tightens everything up. On top of that, you're hitting a bag, which helps you de-stress. You're in the positive atmosphere. You're achieving goals. It's win-win-win when you walk into a boxing club and participate in practice. And women, especially, they're very competitive, they're very goal-oriented, and it's right up their alley. It's getting, even in Women's Health and all these magazines, it's saying boxing is the way to go to get in shape, and they recommend it to all women.
Well, there was no women in boxing not that I can remember. I think that just came up in the late 90s or early 2000s as far as women boxing, but it's come a long way. And I know Victoria, she wants to do well in the sport, and that's not coming from me because I didn't push her into the sport. She pushed me into letting her be in the sport. And she's in a gym with very good girls like Sierra Picton. That's a person who I'd like to see my daughter kind of look up to and learn from, because she's been very experienced. She's had like 50 fights coming up through this club here, and that's just an amazing feat. And the things that she's accomplished in her boxing career, and I hope it's not over yet, but those are some of the people that I would like my daughter to kind of stay close to so that she can learn off them.
So when I first got here, I walked in and I was just scared because I didn't think I was going to be able to keep up with everyone, and some of the people looked kind of intimidating and I was shy. But as I started coming more and then the coaches started working with me, I got more comfortable, and then they put me in for sparring and they told me how good I was doing, and then the other boxers here were telling me how good I was doing, and then we started doing workouts and stuff together, so it made me feel more comfortable and part of the team. So I would tell young girls that wanted to join boxing to just go and try it, because I think they'd think it's a great workout, and I think some girls might be scared to join because they think it's a more male-dominated sport and they might be scared to come in because the guys can be kind of intimidating. But if they just come and they hit the bag and they work out, I think they'd really like it. And when there's other girls here, you're more comfortable and you work out harder.
We're working our asses off just to get equivalence, but at the end of the day, there aren't as many opponents out there. There aren't as many girls out there to fight. There aren't as many, so it'll be tough. But definitely try it out, because if you fall in love with it, it'll be the best thing that's ever happened. Like, it's absolutely amazing. But, you know, as a young girl, really, there's so many things that you struggle with, right? You know, there's confidence, there's hormones, there's like stress, everything going on in your life. And boxing will kind of mediate that if it's right for you. And yeah, but you can do anything. They can do anything that you want if you put your heart and your soul in it.
I think the biggest thing that stuck with me is just the identity of toughness, what it means to be tough, you know. And it doesn't mean getting hit and getting hit doesn't make you tough. Waking up and running makes you tough. Coming to the gym and trying to sweat through your whole shirt makes you tough, right? Outworking everyone in the gym makes you tough. So it's that idea of toughness change. It's not hit me in the chin, it's how hard am I gonna work to get the result I want. And that's what I found toughness to be, and I found that in here. I didn't find that outside. That was me and myself and my coaches pushing me to find that.
I used to smoke. I'd go up a flight of stairs. I was out of breath, easily distracted, everything. This kind of really was the foundation of getting me on track to getting in shape. Changed the way I ate because I had to increase my energy levels to fight. It changed my competition, not just in here, but again, doing track work outside. It changed my way of thinking, because in the ring, it's a total different place in there. It's hard to explain unless you've been in there, but it is something that I've never experienced. It's probably one of the greatest experiences of my life was being in the ring. So it's really helped me out with life skills and to be a better person, and physically, just better mentally. It just naturally comes with it, right? Sharper, clearer mind and everything. So it's been extremely beneficial to me.
It's probably the most substantial thing I've ever had happen in my life. Boxing, it saves you from yourself. It really does, because you can't lie to yourself. It's like anything you want to do in life, or anything you aspire to be, you learn that here first. Because you can't do something half-heartedly in boxing and expect the 100% reward. You're gonna get a half-hearted result, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing that's transferable. So you go and take that, and, you know, and for me it's, you can't be out drinking, you can't be out partying if you wanna be a good fighter, right? It's the same thing as being a good, you know, a good successful person. You have to give 110% in everything you do, and boxing teaches you that. Yeah. So I think, if anything, if that's what it taught me, it's had the biggest impact. I don't know any other sport that's done that for me. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't lie to you. It can't lie to you, because if you're not doing it, you're gonna learn real quick. You're either gonna end up on your butt or you're gonna end up on your back, and you know, that's life, right? Yeah.
You know, I'm proud of everyone who's been in here, because, you know, it is an intimidating thought to come in a boxing club and start working out and possibly compete or just get in shape with who you think is in the gym. You think big tough guys, and, you know, maybe they are big tough guys, but they're humble and nice big tough guys, or women that are in the gym. And, you know, everyone who steps through the door and at least tries it out, I'm proud of. And, you know, everyone should give it a shot. It should almost be mandatory that you do some boxing in your lifetime, because it teaches you a lot of life lessons. And, you know, almost any boxing club will teach you, you know, there'll be a good head coach, and, you know, you'll learn if you come into a boxing club. It should be mandatory.
People have this idea about boxing that it's violent, that the kids that are involved are going to become more violent and want to fight outside of boxing. But just from personal experience, if anything, it's going to calm you down. You have a new built-up respect for fighting and appreciation for the other people that you're facing. Nothing will calm you down more than the feeling after you've had a fight or whatever, when you know that two people trained as hard as they possibly can to try to beat each other in the competition, but afterwards to be able to shake hands and be friends afterwards. All the violence aspect of the fight is gone completely, and that attitude towards violence has changed. It's not fighting, it's boxing, and that's the big difference. It changes you. So for a parent to be able to see that and to be able to understand that, you'd want your kid involved in boxing. And you can't get a better workout than boxing. You can't get something that's going to push yourself to the brink of like physical fitness as well as mental fitness, because you have to be sharp all the time, and just being overall healthy. I think it's got to be one of the best sports.
Anyone would be foolish to sit up here and say that they did it themselves, because it's not true. There's a lot of work and a lot of hours that go into making any fighter ready to be in the ring. And I know fans don't appreciate it, but I hope that they can kind of understand and appreciate that the fighters can understand and appreciate that it's not as much as you're in the ring on your own, you can get there yourself. And and what makes Nappers different is the breadth of support that the coaching staff led by you gives the fighters, and not just the fighters, but everyone who walks through those doors. And that's important to know, that if you come in here, you're going to be looked after, and you're going to be taught to do things the Napper way, and it's going to benefit you in the long run.
There are so many lessons that I've learned at the gym, and I really don't have time to say all of them, but the biggest one was really, really personal to me, and it was always, I've always struggled with it, even when I was younger, is confidence and believing in myself. And, you know, I had difficulties with it outside the ring and inside the ring, but, you know, obviously it was more prominent inside the ring because that's where it mattered most. And, you know, I've tried to work on it for such a long time. You know, other coaches didn't really pay much attention to it. They were like, oh no, just punch some more, it's fine. But Ray really understood that it was a big setback, that it would definitely hold me back. And, you know, he was totally right about that, and he worked with me so much on it. I had all these great exercises to do in the morning and before fights, and they've really changed everything, the way I look at myself, the way I look at myself in comparison to others, and he's really, really changed that for me.
Just the opportunities that boxing's given to me, traveling, you know, the camaraderie with teammates, you know, going in different tournaments around the world, you know, meeting different people, and it makes you feel important, you know, to be able to step up into the ring and knowing that you're going one-on-one with somebody is probably the greatest adrenaline rush anybody could possibly have.
And the seconds after that, Pengadam went to the canvas. Jumping up and down in his neutral corner. He can't wait to get back to it. Oh, what a surprise. Pengadam, another right hand, and that hurt. Another right hand. Pengadam boring in. He's down again. Amerzargon is on the canvas. Second standing 8 count.
If you sit in the same spot you did today, you'll be in the same spot tomorrow. But if you get up and you do something about it, it'll be different. Your life changes, right? So instead of sitting and doing nothing, get up. You're not a tree. You don't have roots. You're not stuck in the same position. Get up and move. You know what I mean? And boxing makes you move. It makes you move in the right way, right? Mentally, physically, spiritually. Get up. Do something. That's what boxing does. That's what Nappers does.
I don't know any organization that I've ever been, and I've been involved with a lot of teams. I've played a lot of sports, but I've never had that level of closeness and commitment and loyalty.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. Like, I mean, I would do anything for the club or for the family, but I know that they would do the same for me.
If you had to count on one hand, be thousands of individuals that either have participated or are part of this facility here at this place. Not a great big place, but a place of where many, many Welland people came to learn a lot of valuable lessons in life. For me, I don't know, it's one of the platforms that Welland should be standing on right now as a community, for something to, you know, we should be proud of these things, along with other places, but this is probably one of the oldest that I know of in Welland. I've been around for a long time, been around for quite a while. So I should tell you that it's you know, it should be one of the cornerstones that Welland is known as the sports city. It's the cornerstones of the sports city, you know, for Welland.
It's almost like a snowball, if you think about it. You start back at Ray's grandfather when he opened the club, and you roll it down to Ray's father, and the snowball is getting bigger and bigger of knowledge, and then down to Ray, and it's just this like ginormous snowball of information. And I really think that it's like, because everybody, you know, you can have the biggest snowball in the world, but it's about how you distribute that information to the fighters. And they all, like, Ray really knows how to, you know, just how to tell fighters what they need to hear and when they need to hear it. And it just all kind of comes together in a perfect harmony, and it just develops the boxers, and, you know, it makes them really believe in themselves. And you never leave feeling upset. You don't leave the club feeling, you know, disappointed. You always leave with like a new inspiration and like a new sense of self.
So if you're a fighter and you can commit that, you know, those hours and that time and really decide that you want to be something special, whether it's go to school and, you know, hammer out those hours and be something, or it doesn't matter, anything you want to do, just be a fighter in it. Do it 110%. Everything you do, give it your all. You're better. You're a better person. You're a good person, because it takes a good person to sacrifice those things that other people aren't willing to sacrifice. It takes a good person to realize that anything worth doing is hard work, right? Yep. Because nothing comes easy, and anything worth doing is hard work. So to become the best version of yourself, you need to sacrifice the old version of yourself, which is lesser than to become more, right? Yeah. So I don't know, that's boxing, that's being a fighter. So I think every person who's committed to that journey is the best version of themselves. They're smiling, they're happy, they love themselves. You can see it full-heartedly. It's like, wow, a person has some serious love for themselves. And that, in case, spreads to the people around them. It's like an infectious thing, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's nice.
For the future, I want to get a kids class going in here, you know, teach, you know, people 5 to 10 years old how to box, and, you know, have a little bit more fun with it. And, you know, maybe even get a class for, you know, older people, like over 50 or over 40, because, you know, it's becoming really popular. But, you know, again, when they're working out beside 20-year-olds, it could be a little intimidating at times. So, you know, a couple different classes. Getting the boxing club younger, competitive-wise as well. Getting a good youth and junior team, keeping up the good senior team. And, you know, for me, hopefully be the coach of Team Ontario again. You know, maybe go on a couple trips with Team Canada, and hopefully get to my ultimate goal, which is to go to the Olympics.
Well, I think it's just a family tradition, you know? A love for family, a respect for family, you know? When Ray Napper Senior was running the club, and there's been a lot of good fighters that have come in through here, you know? Produced 2 Olympians, you know, Tom the Bomb and myself. And was potential for other Olympians to come out of this club too. But I believe that it's a family-oriented situation here at Nappers, and it's a respect for the generations before them to carry this on.
This time was coming soon. Gonna get dark, babe, before the noon. Sun gonna shine on that day. Every soul gonna meet and pray. Follow by rain,
Napper.